I'm Chris White, publisher of the Times of Northwest Indiana, and I'd like to thank you for joining us for our virtual presentation of the 13th Annual Business and Industry Hall of Fame. I would like to thank our Hall of Fame sponsors, Family Express, HealthLink, and Bozak Auto Group, who helped make this presentation possible. And I would also like to acknowledge our sponsors who are proud to support the effort of these and other businesses who contribute to the strong and innovative business environment here in Northwest Indiana. Our sponsors include People's Bank, Nipsco, Franciscan Health, Myers-Glaros Group, Purdue University Northwest, Tom and Ed's Auto Body, Schererville BMW, South Shore Jaguar and Land Rover. To begin our program, I'd like to introduce Nipsco President Mike Hooper.
Good afternoon, and thank you for the opportunity to once again be a part of this year's ceremony, an event that, hard to believe, is in its 13th year, and we're proud to have been there since the beginning. First, I would like to offer my congratulations to each of the incredibly distinguished and accomplished members of the 2020 Hall of Fame class. Your leadership and contributions are an inspiration that fuels others to want to achieve more, and you are undoubtedly leaving a lasting mark on this region for generations to come. I would also like to thank Chris White and the Times Media Company for creating venues such as this and others throughout the year to highlight and acknowledge the unique talents and strengths that give us a distinct advantage when it comes to our economic competitiveness and success within the business community. Collectively, we all have a vested interest in the future of this region and our state, and it's critical that we leverage those strengths and continue working together. While I stepped into my new role as company president in June, I have been with Nipsco since 2011, so I'm very familiar with the communities that we're privileged to serve. And I have an appreciation and respect for the rich history, as well as the tremendous assets that we have in the people that make up our local communities. Whether it's leading a company through the COVID-19 pandemic, to ensure we are able to maintain the reliable energy service that many essential organizations and businesses require, as well as those working in a more remote environment these days, or transitioning to a cleaner, lower cost, and more sustainable energy future, our customers are at the forefront. We are continuing to invest in our infrastructure to better serve you every day. And with technology advancements and developments in the electric industry, I'm excited about what the future holds and the opportunities it presents to partner together with our communities and businesses on some very fresh and innovative initiatives. I recognize that we are all living and working through very challenging times. But if there's one thing I know about the people that make up this great region and state, it's that you're resilient, you're creative, and you have the ability to work through even the most difficult circumstances. And the individuals being honored today are a testament to that notion. Congratulations once again, thank you, and enjoy today's program.
Thank you, Mike, for that great speech. And now, I'd like to introduce you to Ben Bagnowski, the President and CEO of People's Bank.
Where is everybody? I thought we were supposed to be at the Avalon. Oh, we're here? Well, in that case, I can take this off. I'm Ben Bagnowski from People's Bank, and together with all my colleagues, I'd like to start by thanking the Times for putting together such a great event each year and helping us come together, even if it is virtual, to celebrate the excellent leadership that continues to emerge from within our communities. I look forward to the time when we can all meet again to celebrate in person, and I'm certainly missing many familiar faces as we all cope with COVID. I'd like to extend a well-deserved congratulations to this year's incoming class. Despite the many challenges this year has brought, your dedication to our communities has proven to be most powerful, and you continue to touch the lives of many. Because of you, Northwest Indiana has truly become a better place to live and work. We're honored for this opportunity to help recognize these contributions and to be part of your celebration today. Not only have you achieved individual excellence, which we are recognizing today, but you've established yourselves as pillars in our community. Because of you, our communities will endure this crisis. At People's Bank, we're guided by our mission and our values that we share with so many of you. Our mission is to help our customers and communities be more successful, and we abide by our core values of stability, integrity, community, and excellence. We continue to partner within business because they do an outstanding job of bringing attention to the diverse business community in Northwest Indiana, and it allows us to encourage those leaders who align with our mission and values to continue making a positive impact and creating change in our community. This year's not been easy. In the midst of an ongoing pandemic, financial difficulties, and social change, local businesses have found themselves facing significant hardship. Without hesitation, many of you stepped up to provide the assistance to those affected. People's Bank helped provide more than $90 million in small business loans to local businesses through the SBA's Paycheck Protection Program, together with millions more from other banks from throughout the community. If I've learned one thing from all this, it's that there's profound strength in unity. By working together, embracing the diversity of our community, and through leadership such as yours, our communities have remained strong. The more participation we have in the recovery, the more prosperous we will all be when this is over. Again, congratulations to all of today's honorees, and you have our commitment to continue to support you as we work together to help our communities be more successful.
You know, these masks represent a big part of the reason that we can't do this in person this year. And along those lines, take a listen to these messages from HealthLink.
Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Beth Roble, CEO of HealthLink, and I'm acting as your flight attendant for the 2020 Business Hall of Fame. On behalf of Governor Holcomb and the entire Times crew, welcome. At this time, please make sure your seats are in that very uncomfortable upright position. At Air Hall of Fame, we allow one portable electric device to stay online with us for today's event. Following the governor's executive order and our desire to fight COVID-19 and ensure your safety and the safety of everyone in our communities, we require you to wear a mask or face covering while in public. Please adhere to the following guidelines. Masks should be securely worn over your nose and mouth and be washed or disposed of after each use. In addition, to help prevent the spread of COVID-19, wear your mask in public and at all times when social distancing is not an option. Keep at least 6 feet between you and the other people when possible, limiting contact with others and frequently washing your hands. We know you have a choice on which events to attend, and thank you for choosing the 2020 Hall of Fame.
For the last few years, we've been honored to have the Governor of Indiana deliver the keynote address at the enshrinement luncheon for the Northwest Indiana Business and Industry Hall of Fame. This year, we're pleased to feature an exclusive interview with the 51st Governor of the state of Indiana, Eric Holcomb, and editor Marc Chase from the Times.
Okay, hi folks, I'm Marc Chase, editor at the Times of Northwest Indiana. I'm very pleased, under very unusual circumstances this year, to welcome Governor Eric Holcomb. We are doing this year in lieu of a Business Hall of Fame luncheon that we normally do. And Governor, this looks a whole lot different than the hundreds of people we usually address the last couple of years.
Yeah, a lot of hustle and bustle usually. That's a great event.
For sure. Well, we're very pleased to announce the honorees again this year, and we're glad that you wanted to be a part of a question and answer period so that we can
Sure.
usher it in much the same way if under very different circumstances given COVID-19.
Sure. Look forward to it. And by the way, congratulations to those, 4 new inductees and to the new enterprise that's going to be inducted into the Hall of Fame. And obviously they're in select company and earned. And congratulations to them all.
Well, thank you. And thanks for being a part of it again. Let's go ahead and dive right in because we were talking a little bit before we got started here about a very important project for Northwest Indiana and its economy and really for the entire state of Indiana. It's easy to forget in these troubled times that there are some silver linings still out there. One of those for Northwest Indiana is the progress that continues to be made in commuter rail expansion. Give us a progress report from your standpoint, and how is the governor's office continuing to remain engaged on this important issue of expanding the South Shore Line?
Yeah, well, Marc, you're exactly right. This is, and I'm glad you said it at the very outset that way, that it was very important to the state of Indiana, not just the region, critically important to Northwest Indiana, but it really has a much broader and deeper positive impact on our state. I personally, and really we, my office, the commissioner of the Department of Transportation, Joe McGinnis, I mean, if you had to describe how engaged we are, I would say we are constantly and directly engaged, both of us personally, and we're engaged to our federal partners and to our local partners. And that's something I'm pretty proud of, quite frankly. It's just the collaboration that has occurred with all the local entities, everybody having skin in the game, the state and our federal partners. In fact, just last week, I guess it would have been on the 22nd, if my memory serves me correct, last week, I spoke with the Secretary of the Federal Department of Transportation, Secretary Elaine Chao, one-on-one, and about the Westlake federal funding agreement that was delivered to Capitol Hill, to the committees of jurisdiction, and they're starting that 30-day clock, and we're going to remain in constant communication with our, not just those federal partners, but with our congressional delegation, including the dean of our delegation, Congressman Pete Visclosky, and with our two senators. Have had regular conversations with Senator Young about our shared passion on these two kind of rail projects. As I mentioned, the committee staff's been briefed on the project monthly, but they will take that full 30 days, calendar days, to review. And you should know that my Hoosier Hospitality came out loud and clear to the secretary, and I invited her to visit Indiana after that 30-day period for a signing ceremony. And I feel bullish about this. And also, we want to make sure that Congressman Visclosky and Senator Young would be present as well. So stay tuned on that. I never pass up an opportunity actually to talk about these two, transformative projects. And again, not just for that region, but for our state, really for our country. Double tracking the South Shoreline will be, as you know, a project that's still in progress that will be ready for the final FFGA next year around mid 2021. I always express how appreciative I am to our federal partners. I did when I spoke to the secretary and appreciated their confidence. You recall and saw that recently when they announced $50.6 million, to be exact, dollars to be included in the fiscal year 2020 CIG funds to that project. And I guess you could say that was kind of a down payment of their support. Those two projects, again, just show how much the state of Indiana wants to further leverage Northwest Indiana's location in our nation and therefore in the world by investing in connecting the region to even more and greater opportunities through these two mega transformational rail projects. Obviously, Michigan City to Gary, onto one of the biggest economies in the country, Chicago, and then obviously connecting Hammond to Dyer, all part of a broader how we connect with one another, our next level connections infrastructure program. But these two projects and the way that we're trying to speed them up, if you will, toward not just planning, but to completion. That's why the state of Indiana, we included an additional $185 million in our most recent budget, doubling the state's investment in Northwest Indiana's rail. So I just want to mention that we're fully committed, we're fully engaged, and we're tracking every important date that's before us with our congressional counterparts. When these two projects, I've been filibustering here, but when these two are completed, they will have far beyond a generational, positive impact on our state, and they're going to attract billions. You've seen the projections. They're going to attract billions in private investment and ongoing positive impacts to Northwest Indiana, not just to build them, but the thousands and thousands and thousands of projected new jobs that we can get picky about coming to the area, because it just becomes that much more attractive. So if you can tell how excited I am, it's not the caffeine that's got me excited. Sure. It really is the collaboration that has occurred. And by the way, Secretary Chao, I don't want to speak for her, but she may say something similar, because she said, look, you guys have just been model citizens when it comes to getting the administration everything that they needed to make a wise decision on behalf of the American taxpayers.
Well, it's important to keep in mind the timely and promising progress that's being made on projects like this and other things, and especially in these trying times. Clearly, we're dealing with a lot of difficult issues right now as a country, as a state, and just in our local communities.
I put this one, Mark. I put this one, Mark, as in the category of a dream soon to come true. And you mentioned, during these times of anxiety and uncertainty and unprecedented times, we need some good news. And this is really good news that we're staying on track.
Absolutely. Well, thanks for sharing your insights on that. It sounds like we have a lot to look forward to, and some in the very near term here.
Absolutely.
COVID-19 has changed the world, and we've certainly alluded to that enough already. Meanwhile, Indiana is among the worst in the country for obesity, smoking rate, chronic illness, and a host of other categories. Now we're delving into an area that's maybe not as positive. That obviously has negative impacts on employment opportunities and business health insurance costs. It also creates a real additional layer of exacerbating problems when connected with the COVID-19 pandemic. Do you have any plans to prioritize public health in a second term? And what would that look like?
Yeah, I would. I've often said I was on an economic development trip overseas in London early on, and I was very optimistic and very positive, and it was Sir Alan Duncan who said, "Eric, the definition of an optimist." And I said, "I think I do, but you appear to have your own." And he said, "Yeah, it's a poorly informed pessimist." And I got a kind of a laugh and said, I'm not that cynical. There are a lot of silver linings, and even in the toughest times, and obviously it's darkest right before the dawn. And we have really, I've always been a proud Hoosier, but I've never been proud of going through this global pandemic together. From in all 92 counties, people are stepping up and they're doing heroic things, and really have had to adjust on the fly. Our health, you're absolutely right. We got to be mindful. It's got to be a priority for us going forward from now until forever. and because of the very reason, the list that you just ticked off, we've had to be especially mindful of some of those, because COVID-19, this virus, really attacks some of those underlying health conditions, specifically some that you mentioned. And so we've had to be very mindful and have attempted to be very swift in terms of managing through the pandemic. Not that we can ever take our foot off the gas, but that's why we've delivered tracing and testing and distributed PPE, provided guidance for our local communities and on local events, worked with schools to make sure our students and our teachers and faculty are all safe. We've made those tests free and easily accessible. 43% actually of our testing sites have been located in minority and low income communities. So we're making an effort to get to places that sometimes, around the country just get flown over or driven by or passed over. And we're taking the exact opposite approach on that. But to answer your question, public health has always been, always will be an agenda item for me and a priority since well before, obviously, anyone had ever heard of COVID-19, and will be after COVID-19 passes, and it will pass. And I just reflect on, day one, we did some things differently. I appointed a drug czar to better coordinate our state's efforts. We had a lot of people, doing a lot of really good work, but this was truly an all hands on deck approach. And it needed that very same collaboration that we've seen in infrastructure and the way we connect with one another. And so we've increased our access and awareness through a couple different measures. Treatment beds, 211 that provides kind of wraparound services. So when people are calling in and they don't exactly know where to go, we're able to steer them in the right direction to get care to some of those urgent needs. 2 years ago, also on the health front, I set a pretty lofty goal, was questioned by some, and said that I wanted to make sure that Indiana was the best state in the Midwest in terms of our infant mortality by 2024. So that but just by definition on where we were and where we ranked, to your point about rankings, we had to really step on it. And I appointed an expert, and thank goodness she answered the call, Dr. Chris Box, our state health department commissioner, to lead that effort. And we launched levels of care program to ensure that the highest risk babies are born in hospitals with the necessary facilities and resources, and we're screening expectant mothers for substance use so they receive the support and the medicine they need when they need it. And we're continuing to make really historic progress. We have for the last 2 years, and here sometime soon we'll get 2019's results in too. But I'm confident that we're trending and tracking in the right direction on that front. We also, if you recall, just most recently, actually, we talked about this at the Hall of Fame banquet last time because Senator Young was there, and we talked about raising the age of smoking to 2021. That may have been the first time I just kind of came out very publicly and said, yeah, I support it, and I'm glad of what Senator Young is doing, but we're going to do that here in the state of Indiana as well. And so we got that done. We're working on now really even more enforcement issues on that front, and our efforts to curb youth vaping. So again, long-winded answer to yes, public health will always be not just a priority, but it will be one of my 5 pillars and a focus for us going forward over the next 4 years, to make sure that we ought to be saying, just like we do on our tax and our regulatory efforts, we ought to be saying, how do we become the healthiest state in the nation? How do we become the smartest state in the nation? And that ought to be the goal. And so that's why I say it's got to be a priority from now until forever.
For sure. Well, as a reformed former smoker who started smoking probably way younger than he should have, I can appreciate everything you just said on that front. So,
well, thank you.
Promising progress for sure.
That's right.
So if we could switch over, you pledged earlier this year to avoid funding cuts to K-12 education. Given the state's challenged revenue landscape amid the coronavirus pandemic, is that still in the cards, or will adjustments for these uncontrollable variables need to be made?
Yeah, it's a good question because, I mean, if you didn't ask it, it would seem like it was maybe just rhetorical on my part, because it was such a big statement at the time, but it's such a big and important priority for us actually when we get on the other side. And so, yes, and I just shared this with the Indiana School Board Association and the Indiana School Superintendents Association this morning that clearly COVID-19 has had an impact across the board on state and local revenues and the nation's. But the local communities and the state, we're both going through this together. We're both feeling it. But as we look, to the past budget, we're going to make sure that we keep those funding sources in place at 100%. And yes, as we look toward the next budget, we have to make sure that education remains our top priority as a state. And it's always been critically important, but it's as I get around and we continue to attract more and more jobs to the state of Indiana, supplying a educated and skilled up workforce is just as important, again, as your tax and regulatory, the math that companies have to go through. So we'll keep in place the historic education funding increase that was included in our current budget, and we'll continue to, we've expanded On My Way Pre-K, we've expanded 21st Century Scholars, that program. Our STEM education is expanding. We're getting computer science courses in all K through 12 classes or schools. We've dedicated $19 million for school safety, added another couple million for counseling and career guidance for students. So we think that those things, as well as some items that we were able to do because of COVID-19. So again, a silver lining funding coming from our federal partners, and having a governor's emergency education relief fund known as the GEARS fund, we were able to put $61 million into schools and help, if you just break it down to its basics, help students, parents, teachers get proficient and improve their connectivity. So you talk about, we were on the right track pre-COVID on this front, providing affordable, high-speed broadband internet to folks all over the state of Indiana. But this has also helped us do it at the school level as well. Have a lot more to do, but even as and when, not if, but when this virus does subside, we'll continue to partner with schools to make sure that we're funding them at a level that it becomes Indiana's advantage, not a disadvantage coming out of the virus.
Well, the connectivity issue has certainly become ever important, especially in this era. Having 4 kids at home that are doing virtual learning right now, I get it.
Oh my!
Yeah, I get it. Twin 17-year-olds, a 8-year-old daughter, and a 5-year-old son. So one started kindergarten, one started 3rd grade, and 2 are seniors in high school, and they're doing this virtual learning thing this year. So it's pretty incredible.
You've got a full head of hair. I would have thought you would have been pulling it out by now. It really shows you just how great our teachers are, doesn't it?
It does. The performance really has been amazing. I've been able to watch it from my kitchen table, just how well these folks work with children, even when they have to do it over Zoom and some of the media that we're using right now to talk to each other. So.
Yep, it's impressive.
One of the things that our country is really struggling with right now, and you've highlighted it, police accountability is very much in the spotlight of our national consciousness and conversation right now for a lot of reasons. You recently made a pledge centering on police body cameras, which are seen as an important tool for this purpose of police accountability. We recently published a big investigation throughout Lee Enterprises companies, Midwestern news agencies, showing more than half of police departments in a wide sample throughout the Midwest still lacked body cameras for various reasons. Tell us what you hope to accomplish in this arena, and you made a recent pledge that I'd like you to tell us about.
Yeah, I'm good to hear. I'm going to dig into your story there, your piece. My goal is on multiple fronts, quite frankly, and I want to do some things that I'm confident we can do all these, but I want to increase minority representation among police officers, state police force. We're on the right track on that front, but I want to continue to, again, keep the pedal to the metal. I want to modernize our workforce and training. I want to work with the legislature on criminal justice reforms, and all in the name of, and the kind of remarks that I tried to organize and share were all in the name of equity and inclusion, and therefore hopefully opportunity for more. And a few specifics, you mentioned the body cameras. I do want to make sure by spring of next year, 2021, that all of our frontline troopers are equipped with body cameras, and for a couple reasons. One, it does absolutely give another perspective. Where I really became a big believer in this is it also helps in training. It helps officers themselves learn while they're training good practices and maybe just kind of seeing is believing. We've all done, whether you're watching a sporting event or anything that's on replay, certainly in the Navy, when I used to work there, when you go through the training and the practice, you learn a lot about every little step you take. And so that's really, it's twofold. It's one, for more perspective, and it's two, to help not make mistakes, potential mistakes, or be even that more efficient in your work. And so we'll get that done as well. I'm confident about that. We've been, just to go back to my first point, we've been pretty successful at increasing minority representation among our state police graduating classes. I mentioned that it's more than doubled from about 14% to 28% from 2016 to 2019. So we've really been making an effort, and I hope that gives confidence to others that if you're deliberate and you're very purposeful about moving the needle, it can be done, and folks will answer the call and do it proudly. I want to further make sure we're doing everything we can to modernize our officer training as well, even beyond body cameras, which so many folks talk about. So I've directed a third party to come in and do a top-down review of our state police and law enforcement academy, ILEA, their curriculum and the training, and including all the above, but use of force and de-escalation training and implicit bias training. Just I don't want to interfere with that at all. I want them to come in and look under the hood and kick the tires and then give us some really good advice. I suspect they'll find that we're doing a lot right, because I've just gotten around the country enough to know that there are some state police departments that really have really stellar, exemplary reputations, and you're probably not surprised ours is one of them. So there'll be more updates on that in the very near future. We've narrowed it down to just a handful of third-party reviewers, and then we'll ultimately in the next 10 days or so make that final decision. Then they'll go in and they'll start doing all the evaluation. And then I probably shouldn't, I should probably spend a little time saying that I'm serious about working with the members of the General Assembly to do a review in the 2021 legislative session on, I want to look under the hood there too, and we are, and members are already doing this as well, in terms of sentencing reform or earned credit time or jail overcrowding or exorbitant fees, how all those things play off of one another.
Well, we're not doing our jobs if we don't reevaluate how things have been operating and trying to respond to what the social consciousness is right now.
That's exactly right. Yeah, you can't deny reality for very long, or it will deny you.
As we are finding out, for sure. If I could be permitted to go off reservation just a little bit here, I'm a Civil War historian, particularly of the role Indiana and Northwest Indiana played in the Civil War. We see so many issues of civil unrest in our country right now that in some ways remind us of issues that were at play during the Civil War era more than 150 years ago. Yeah. Looking back at that time, the Hoosier State played a significant role in flocking to Lincoln's banner, committing a higher percentage of its male population at that time as volunteer troops in the Union Army over nearly every other state. What lessons can we learn from our past? And what significant roles can the Hoosier State play in helping our country now through this time of great civil unrest?
Well, add that to the list of things that we have in common. I'm a history buff as well, and a paperback history buff, I guess you could say, and former history major, and I focused on the Civil War and Reconstruction. And I often, going through the time we're going through right now, I think about rebuilding and Reconstruction a lot, about who we are as Americans and how that's being challenged. And I'm also a collector of presidential signatures. So the next time you're down in the capital city, I will show you some interesting.
I would like to see those.
Yeah, it's very interesting stories. These, our books about the Civil War or our signatures or our collections. They really do become kind of your friends, and would love to show you a couple that I think you would find of interest, knowing of your background. But you mentioned that it's probably, I think it was almost 10% of what Indiana sent in terms of the Army during the Civil War. I mean, a really outsized number compared to some of the eastern states and the population. I mean, you just my kind of jaw dropped when I first heard about that.
We were tough, rough, and ready to fight.
There you go. And ready was the key. Yeah, that's exactly right. We forged our way out of the forest, and let's go prove this. But I also think that, and I appreciate kind of their perspective, and I hope ours today too, certainly is mine, about being forward-looking and never shine away from a challenge, come what may. Sometimes you see it coming, sometimes COVID-19. You get a little notice, but by the time you got notice, by the time you see it on the radar, it's here and it's getting ready to whack you. And that's that same resolve. It's interesting that you went back to the Civil War, because I have too. And that same resolve, what we have to muster is what this moment, I think, requires. And we're seeing that if we're ever, and especially on the front that you're scratching at, because we better, if we want to be on the right side of history, looking back on this, we better get organized and be well conducted, and understand, acknowledge the challenge, and then set some action steps in place, and then measure and hold ourselves accountable, and don't shirk from that responsibility, but address it and try to appeal to the greater citizenry to assist. And so that's what I'm going to be doing. By the way, I mean, we happen to be talking about being on the right side of history, but our nation was founded on the promise of equality with unalienable rights and of life and liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, and being able to pursue that happiness guaranteed to all. So I've said that I want to put meaning and action to those words, to the written words, when we set course on this experiment. And nearly, 2.5 centuries later, we just haven't fully realized that aspiration. I think the founders knew that, obviously, when they said in order to form a more perfect union. I think they baked that in, and that was, they talked about rights, but that was our responsibility. And so that's why I constantly talk about e pluribus unum, or one Indiana for all. And we've got, a state that works on some of our buildings and some of our stationery. And I wanted to say a state that works, for all. But we have to take steps to make sure that, and set goals, by the way, again, back to the hold ourselves accountable, measure what we're doing. And that has to do, and that's why I reached out to so many corporate, leaders and execs and college, university presidents, business owners, churches, church leaders, citizens. I wanted to cast a broad net out there to again, at least reflect in the information that I was receiving, that perspective. And clearly we have more work to do. I kind of find that exciting as well, because we can make progress on this. We are making progress on this front. And so, again, just like, evaluating ILEA and hiring someone to come in to do that, I've announced we're going to hire Indiana's first ever Chief Equity, Inclusion, and Opportunity Officer. And we received a lot of interest in that, and we're narrowing that down. And that job, they will wake up every single day and with, a to-do list, but one of those top to-do list items will be removing barriers and hurdles in the government workplace regarding the services that we provide, and challenging every single state agency to do the same. So, closing those education and workforce training gaps, and recruiting more minorities into, these available high wage, high demand career fields, and really seeking more economic empowerment for our minority owned businesses to take advantage of these state programs that we have, and better tailor on our behalf, better tailor those programs to create better opportunity for people of color. And we've, again, silver lining to your first question, to that point, during COVID-19, because of some of those CARES dollars, we've been able to set aside and devote $5 million that is specifically designated to assist minority and women-owned businesses. And our partnership with Indiana's Black Expo and their 12 affiliates, all including up in the region, is helping connect minority businesses and entrepreneurs and startups and with workforce training and counseling and all the partnerships that are out there and funding opportunities, quite frankly, like never before. And so we're starting to see those. The good news is we're starting to see those numbers tick up in terms of comparing it to the total population and or what we used to see out of those communities. So we're blessed to have so many great companies with strong ties, community ties, and commitments to diversity and inclusion. And that's a good thing. And I just want to do basically I just want to do a whole lot more of a good thing. So all of us have a role to play in this, and that's what I'll be also making it a priority that we continue to make what will become known as historic progress.
Well, Governor, I really appreciate you detailing that for us. Being on the right side of history should be important to all of us. And it's promising to hear that the state of Indiana is moving in that direction in many regards. So I do appreciate you taking. Yeah, absolutely. Well, I appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule today. I know that all the honorees this year appreciate it. And thank you so much. I look forward to doing this again next year.
Thanks, Marc, so much to you and the Times, and look forward to seeing you in person when it's safe to do so.
That would be great, without a mask at some point.
Without a mask, that's it.
All right.
Something to look forward to.
Something to look forward to. Take care.
Thank you, Governor Holcomb and Marc Chase, for a great Q&A session. That concludes our virtual event. On behalf of the Times Media Company and all our sponsors, I would like to thank you for joining us. Please take some time to view these messages from our sponsors.
Dale Cooper started a program that is putting gardens in more than 50 local schools, helping kids get healthy food and learn where it comes from. People like Dale inspire us at Nipsco, where we're transitioning from coal-powered generation to new lower-cost energy resources like wind and solar, making energy cleaner, reliable, and ultimately more affordable. Because like Dale, we're dedicated to leaving things better. Learn more about our Your Energy, Your Future plan at nipsco.com/future.
Keep going. You can do this. That resilience is part of the pride at Purdue University Northwest. Just like you, we find a way to keep moving forward, coming together to thrive as a community. When you join the pride at PNW, you do more than develop the real-world tools you need to succeed. You feed the determination that makes it all possible. Power onward with PNW.
Myers-Glaros Group is a full-service insurance brokerage based in Northwest Indiana. We cater to families as well as businesses in the local area, and we like to help them make sure that they're getting the proper insurances that they need to protect themselves, their businesses, and their families. We're happy to continue to support the area as a local business and as a local insurance brokerage. For more information, go to myersglaros.com.